So I'm gonna talk about how companies are now hiring for degrees. Okay. Whether it be, IT, that's information technology, nursing, whatever the, excuse me. Ooh, I got hiccups, y'all. Sorry. Whatever the case may be. Oh, and before I get off on this subject, I have to show y'all what my niece sent to me, which that was so sweet of her. I was not suspecting it. I looked in the mail and I was like, I really like Starbucks. She gave me a gift card. I was like, that's so sweet. Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, because I go to Starbucks quite often and I be racking up a bill sometimes. So anyways, thank you so much, to my niece, my family, everybody that's supporting me through my endeavors, because I've been like doing a whole lot. But I still, like, even though I have my own business, selling poetry, I also do Legal Shield. If y'all interested in that, I'm gonna try to make a video on that as well. But I am deciding to go back into the workforce because I've been on YouTube for 1 year and I only got 3,000 subscribers, and that's not enough to get monetized. And I went on TikTok and I'm just like, okay, I only been on there a couple of months and I got 1,500 subscribers. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Depending on, I guess, what platform you pick first, you might not, take off, as quick, one platform from another. But anyways, they said once you grow your following on whatever platform, you just move it to the next and keep going. And I did not know that. So anyways, I also been doing Legal Shield. And so when people don't know their rights, you might want to get a copy of this right here so you can know your rights, okay? Because you're about to go into the workforce, you need to know your rights. And so this is a little pamphlet that I got, and it explains like all your different rights and stuff. And at the back of it, it shows you how you can get free copies of it. Okay, not everything costs money, but know your rights when you go into the workforce. All right, and so like I said, these are all the amendments that I have recorded. Like, I know that America has, well, I don't want to say America. Some Americans have lost their patriotism, and so they might not want this book, to know their rights or whatever the case may be. I'm still a patriot, y'all. No matter who's in office or who's, in charge of the government. Hey, I see. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Come on in. So, yes, I am going to be talking about, how companies hire for a degree versus merit or experience or like, wisdom. Okay. And so know your rights first, though, before you go in the workforce. Know your rights. And I know it's hard to read. Yes. Thank y'all. You know how it is when you go into the workforce and maybe you've been out for a while, or maybe you're transitioning into another job or whatever the case may be. And you don't know that, companies are hiring for degrees. So somebody might be straight out of college and say they're like 23, 24, and you're an older person and now they're your manager. Okay. And you're just like, where did this come from? I've been studying in my own little way, and pretty much I know the art, I know the craft of my job, but then now somebody who just got out of school is over top of me or is my manager or my superior. Okay. And I saw a lot of this in the workforce, y'all, and mainly it was at Amazon. I did work at Amazon for like 6 months, and it was on the weekend. It was part-time, but a lot of the managers was 18, 19, 21, 22, and you would have the elderly people in there boxing the boxes and throwing them down the line, boxing them and throwing down the line. And, even the elderly people have been there longer, and they have a little bit more experience, but the younger person had a degree. And so, or they maybe they had a high school diploma, and some of the elderly people don't even have a GED. And that's just that one job. Okay. Now, I also worked at Del Monte. So when I worked at Del Monte, it's a fruit company. All right. I saw a lot of young people in charge of the elderly. I saw this one lady, she was typing so fast. She knew Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything, okay? And she was an older lady. She was typing more than 100 words per minute, y'all. I'm telling you, she was amazing. Like, I can type really fast and I can get up to maybe 40 or 50 words per minute, but this lady was going to town on the keyboard, okay? She knew it like it was her backhand and whatever, okay? She still had a young teeny bopper in charge of her, letting her know, hey, okay, at the end of the month, you want to make sure that all this stuff is in order. And she's just like, I've been working this job longer than you've been in charge. So, you can't tell me nothing that I already don't know. She can put the books together with or without the lady that was in charge, which, listen, she was very smart. Don't get me wrong. She was very smart. She was very, very intelligent. But she was book smart. Um, she could have run that company without the lady that was there. And I'm trying my hardest, like, not to say their names because they might still be working there. Okay, I don't work there anymore. And so I ended up saying, you know what? They ended up hiring somebody with a master's degree, and they put that person with the master's degree below the person with the bachelor's degree. It was so like out of this world, y'all. I don't even know how to explain it. I was just like, this don't even make no sense. I know, that person had been there longer, don't get me wrong, but it was just terrible. Okay, it was just terrible, y'all. Reporting in to an 18, 19, 20-year-old, it was terrible, y'all. It was terrible. They wasn't never on time. I had the keys. I had to unlock the door. I had to open, get everything ready. And I was just like, this is just annoying. Okay, they was coming in with hangovers and everything. And it's just like, just because you have a bachelor's degree at a young age, or you took the, quick start program where you can get finished with college in 3 years. I think back in the day when I was in college, yeah, you could probably did it in 3 years when I was in college, but most people was waiting the whole 4 years. And sometimes it took 5 years to graduate, depending on what major you chose. Y'all, I saw so much stuff. Okay. Things was unorganized. Thankfully, it was a lot of older people with Merritt that have been at the company longer. So they kept it organized and like kept it going and flowing. Even though the leadership was not properly prepared or even didn't even really care like whether they was at work or not. They was on their cell phone, and I was just like, what? Laughing, talking with friends, just like, oh my God, this job gets on my nerves. All these old people. And I'm like, at least shut the door. Like, don't express how you feel, with the door open. Like, it don't even make no sense. And then every time she went to lunch, just attitude, like getting annoyed with people. I don't even know why they did this wrong. This is just, like, that's just dumb. Like, what's wrong with them? And I'm like, that was done perfectly right. Like, we've been doing it that way for a long time. I had to let it go. Hey, I appreciate y'all coming on in. I know the normal topics that I'm used to talking about, I went to a whole different topic because I felt like I needed to get that out there today, because I'm deciding now, y'all, even though I have my own business and I have, the Legal Shield entrepreneurship thing going, I'm going to go back in the workforce. But I'm telling y'all ahead of time that there has been a big change and shift in the way that they hire people. Okay. It's not like it used to be where you can come in and, dress up nice, have your resume and answer some questions. No, they're straightforward. Like, do you have a degree? What are you specialized in? How can you benefit the company? Or, why did you apply to this company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, y'all, the reason why you apply for a job is, first of all, to get some money. Okay. Second of all, to add value to the company. Hopefully that's what people, go into the interview for and they go to the job for. I'm going to add value. You see my skill set on the resume. If you don't like what you see on my resume, I'm thinking like, don't call me in there and waste my time and say, oh, I'm gonna look for another candidate. To me, that is just disrespectful. Okay, now if I come in looking like a bum, or I don't know how to speak well, or I don't know how to conduct myself, okay, by all means, do what you have to do. But if I come in there and I'm respectable and I'm, trustworthy, I'm loyal, making sure that I'm on time and doing what I need to do to make sure this job gets done, go ahead and hire me. Otherwise, I'm thinking, don't ask me questions like, why did you come in for the interview, or what makes you a good fit for this job? Look at my resume. It speaks for itself. If you see my skill set and you say, hey, I'm highly impressed, let me call her in for an interview, don't ask me or try to second guess me or make me circle back and try to explain why I feel like I'm good for the job. Okay. And a lot of times I feel like, people don't have a lot of good experience when they ask questions like that. Because, if I'm going to hire somebody, what I need to know is, are you loyal? Will you show up? Are you dependable? Because the first thing I learned in the military is half of the battle is showing up. You might not be in the right uniform. You might not have the right shoes on, or whatever the case may be. But half of the battle is showing up. It's the same thing for an interview. I've seen people not show up for the interview, late, no resume, wrinkled, barely even look like they just walked out the, door and didn't even brush their teeth or try to do anything. Okay. Just nothing. Every time when I go in for an interview, I'm looking like I'm dressed to impress. Now I'm a little bit more comfortable when I go out to my job interviews, but I do notice now that, if they're just going to go for the degree like IT or, something along that nature, or, oh, do you have a real estate license? It's something, sometimes it's more to help the person who is hiring you than it is to help the company. And that's really awkward and weird to me. I don't know, have y'all had that same experience, but every time I went into the interview, at this point, in this stage of my life, I've seen that the interviewer is looking for what can you help them with. Like, and I told y'all about the experience that I had with a couple other companies. And if you don't remember, you can just rewind back and go to some of my videos where I said, I'm about to go in for the interview or best interview outfits. And then I just explain what job I went in for and then my interview process and what happened. Even though I'm fortunate enough, I don't have to go back to work. I want to go back to work and I want to get myself back active. Because now that I've been walking in the morning, I see that I have more energy. I have more time on my hand. And I don't want to just be shopping all day. I want to be active. I want to help people. And I want to put my hand to really, really engage and help other people and not just myself. Because sometimes you can feel like, okay, you're at home and, you're working out or you're eating right and you're, doing all the things that you need to do to make yourself better. But how are you giving back? That's what I'm big on. And I have tried volunteering. I know some people say, well, volunteer, don't go back to work. I have tried volunteering and it was okay. But I really feel like, if I go out there and do something, I want to be, be getting compensated or paid. Now you do get free t-shirts, free little baggies, free little pamphlets and, pens and papers and all that kind of stuff, fun stuff. But I was like, I need to go delve a little bit deeper. I need to make more connections. And also, if I go back to work, that can help my legal shield business. And also I can, find more people to talk to and brush up on my communication skills. And I feel like customer service jobs help a whole lot with that and helping me to develop, more skills and traits, naturally without having to go back to school, every single time I feel like I need to level up or do better in life. Sometimes, work just does that because you have matrix and you have measurements and you have like, you're getting compensated when you do better or you know what I'm saying, just upgrade or do your job to the best of your ability or to the company standard. So, anyways, That's what I came on here to really pretty much lay out to y'all today, was like going back in the workforce or transitioning back in there is not easy. You have to put a lot of effort and energy in it. Now, if you go out to the interview and they're not hiring you just because, let's say, they feel like you don't speak as well, or you don't represent the company mottos, you have to do that research before you go out there, first of all. And then second of all, you can find out how many people, because they ask you at the end, do you have any questions for me or for the company? You can ask, like, how many people are you hiring? That's a good question. Because if they're hiring maybe, 20 to 30 people for a whole training class, your chances and odds of getting a job is really, really high. Now, say like when I went in for the waterworks job, and I asked them at the interview at the end, I said, what are my odds of getting this job? Like, how many people are you going to hire for this position? They said one. And I said, so how many people are you interviewing with? They said two, and you're one of them. And I was like, okay, thank you for that information. I said, are you able to disclose any more information? And they said no, but I already saw the other person in the hallway with me. She had already interviewed first. Okay. Now at this point in time, they hired for what was it? They hired for, I can't think of it. I can't put my finger on it. They hired based on merit. Okay. This was the first time I ever seen that, because I had a degree and she didn't have a degree. But what they were looking for, since it was a very small company, only 30 people in there, and it was a water company. Okay. They said they only hire like maybe one person every 5 to 10 years. Because everybody that they hire, they stay on with them and they don't leave. Okay. That's why I'm really big about loyalty. Because a lot of times I know when these jobs hire you, they want you to be as loyal as possible. And I guess they felt like with this lady, she had been maybe, hired before, or she knew somebody there. They felt like she was a little bit more closely connected with the company. Okay. All right. So that's the first time I ever saw that. Because usually when I go in for the job interview, I nail it. I already know I'm good. And let me just rack up the coins or rack up the paycheck. All right. So I try to stay confident. But at the end, I do ask a lot of questions so that I can know, what is my competition? What does this company stand for? And can I fit into that company standard? Okay. Because I also ask, what do you expect of me? You know what I mean? Not of anybody else you interview, but what do you expect of me? And a lot of times they will tell you what they expect. And then they say, hey, can you work these hours? I tell them right on the spot if I can work these hours. I already let them know I will not apply to a job unless I can work the schedule, because I do not like wasting people's time. But I will let you know that some of these jobs will waste your time. Okay, because I went out to the job for the admin at a local, I think it was like prison or jailhouse or whatever the case may be. And they flipped the script on me. They said, now what we put out in the job announcement may be a little bit, off. A couple of things on there we expect a little bit more, like you have to come in early for a shift and you have to leave late for a shift. And I was like, hey, that's something you definitely have to let people know, that it's like mandatory overtime. That needs to be included in the job announcement. You should not find out at the interview that there is mandatory overtime. Like, this wasn't like, oh, can you do it? It was mandatory, because they opened at 6 o'clock and they start booking people and putting them in the, the jailhouse. And so they don't shackle and chain these people. I found that out at the interview. I said, that's something that you have to disclose in the job description so that you don't waste the person's time when they drive out there. Because I never worked into, like the prison system. Now, I was looking to get a federal job or a state job, whatever the case may be, but I'm not willing to put my life on the line just to make a couple of coins. because at the time, I think that job was like 45,000 to 48,000. That's not a lot of money to put your job on the line for, they say, first time offenders. So they're not really usually as violent as the ones who've been there repeat offenders. I said, so do you have repeat offenders? Excuse me, not defenders. They said, yes, we do. Okay, so I said, I'm out based on that information. Now, the other lady that came in to interview with me, because it was just me and one other person, because I'm very choosy when I get a job interview. So a lot of times it's between me and one other person, because I really go for, the high demanding jobs. Okay. Now, I'm not saying, oh, I'm so smart and I have all these credentials and degrees and stuff like that. No, I don't like to throw that out there in interviews, because if you looked on my resume, it's on there. You know what I mean? I don't want to come to the interview and try to wow you and just like, oh my gosh, look what I can do. I can, jump on the top of a building and I can, belay down or whatever. No, okay. I just say my resume speaks for itself. Everything that you see on there, I can do. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I don't try to make stuff up like, type 100 words per minute. No, I don't put stuff on there. Now, one time I did put on there that I speak Spanish fluently, and I had to take that off because some words I do not know fully in Spanish. Okay. But if I hear it, I can interpret it, but I can't always, respond back as quick as they would like. It might take me a little bit more time to process. All right. Now, I don't know why jobs are doing this right now, looking for a degree specifically. And it's not a 2-year degree, y'all. They're looking for a bachelor's, master's, or a PhD. And the reason how I know that is my best friend, she has her bachelor's degree. She went in for nutrition. And now she says, I have to go back and get my master's in order to actually, scale up or get to the horizon that she wants to get to in her company. And I was like, that's terrible. You already have a bachelor's degree. Why do you have to go back for a master's in order to just even be a manager? And I've seen where, it's just like a buddy system. This person don't even have a degree, but it's like, that's their cousin. So they put them in a manager's position, or that's their son or their daughter. And now, somebody coming in from off the street or out the door, they have to compete with somebody's son or daughter or their cousin. And they don't even have a degree. It's just, oh, I like this person. I want them to, sometimes I actually, oh my goodness. Somebody is funny right there. Okay. Yeah. So you have accidents. Accidents happen. Listen, accidents do happen. Sometimes people do say, hey, I don't have a lot of people to choose from or pick from when it comes to hiring. So I'm just going to hire anybody. And then you come in there, you're just like, you can tell that they just hired anybody from off the street. They're not dressed up. They're not even working hard. And a lot of customers are being like annoyed and don't even want the service anymore because of the people who they have hired. Now, some companies that really get it right, I would say Chick-fil-A gets it right. They always hire somebody with good, customer service, that's respectful, that's there on time, makes the meals right or correct. They get the orders, they're pretty much, consistent. Okay. McDonald's used to be that way. I don't know. It's kind of changed over the years, y'all. I would say Starbucks is really good about hiring good customer service, because when I go in there, I always get good customer service. And I know that, when they're hiring, it's based on somebody who just enjoys doing the job. I don't know about hiring as far as degrees goes. Let me see, what other company? I would say a company that I think hires for degrees is probably the YMCA as well. Because I remember I went to apply for there, and I knew like a swim instructor that applied, and they wanted to be in, in the mix of things, and somebody else was chosen who basically had a degree in sports science and fitness management. I don't know how I know that information. Sometimes I just know information, okay, y'all? I'm very inquisitive. I just ask questions when I go around and I see who's been hired, the new personnel, especially when I go some places on a regular basis. I start to know the people and their faces, okay? And so when I do that, I know exactly, who I'm dealing with. And I talk to them and I pick their brain. Hey, what made you want to do this job? Or how is this job treating you? Or, I'll say things like that. And so I can get them to talk. And then they let me know, little snippets of things that's going on within the company. Because I know, when a person gets by themselves or they have time on their hand, they will let you know how they feel about the company that hired them. And I'm getting a lot of feedback about that, y'all. A lot. Okay, because a lot of people talk to me because I'm a very easy person to talk to. I don't try to stick my nose up at anybody or have an attitude when somebody is trying to tell me something, because I just never know. People are sent in my life for a reason. And so yeah, I literally told y'all this story before, that my neighbor down the street, I don't know if he's an Italian man or a New Yorker, but he always has his hair slicked back and he got a head full of gray hairs. He started working at the grocery store down the street. All his bosses are younger than him. All of them, y'all. And he's sitting up here working at the register. I already know his story. He got a Cadillac. He been around for a long time. And I'm pretty sure he worked his butt off until he retired. And guess what? The retirement pay and the so-called Social Security is not enough. And this is somebody who's well into their old age. And that's not the only time I've seen it. I told y'all about that Harris Theater story. I worked there too. So, that was a good store to work for. I learned the company history. It has a great company history, y'all. I want to say I stand behind Harris Theater. I'm going to have to do a whole separate video on that company because I learned a whole lot when I was working there. But anyways, when I went shopping there, I told y'all when I was on the other side of town, it was maybe a couple of months ago, okay? Not a couple of months, maybe a couple of years ago, okay? It's been quite some time. But some elderly people are being hired, and they're hired under, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds, okay? Really, really young managers telling an elderly person, 50, 60, sometimes 70, what to do and how to work their job. You see how imbalanced that is? And how it throws off the equilibrium, the homeostasis of the workforce. There we go. I don't want to try to use some words that I have no idea how to pronounce, but they mean the exact same thing, okay? Well, not the exact same, but pretty much really close there together, okay? All right, so when I see that, it makes me kind of cringe. Because I will see maybe a young teeny bopper telling this older person, how to stock things in the grocery store, how to service their customers in a grocery store. It's sickening. I don't want to say I get sick to my stomach, but I feel like I want to cringe. I want to crash out. I want to see who hired this, litter of, people at this point. And I say litter, but group of people. I'm trying to use some big words like I'm all smart, but whatever. Let me stop doing that because it does not make me look smart. It just makes me look even worse. Okay. So anyways, that's all I'm going to talk to y'all about today, because I really wanted to talk to y'all about that because I'm about to go back in the workforce. Like I told y'all that earlier, and I know what to expect. I already saw some of the HR people. I don't want to say that most of them are younger than me. I already know what time it is. You already know what time it is. The rush and the change of technology has made it easier for the young people to surpass the older generation. Not by a little bit, but by a high margin, okay, y'all? Because the younger generation knows how to get on these little live feeds and things of that nature and get all their friends to come behind them and say, hey, follow, share. And then I'm like, well, what's happening to the older people? Why are we not sticking together and saying hey, let's support each other. Let's get behind each other. and make ourselves, more popular on this internet than these younger people who have to take off all their clothes or dance in front of a whole bunch of people. It's just showing, through social media, through the jobs, everything, y'all, that the younger people are supporting themselves more than the older generation. So it's like, I hear a lot of young people like, oh yeah, these old people, the way they do things, they don't even make any sense. They don't help each other. They don't look out for each other. And I'm like, you know what? They might actually be true. And they might be telling the truth, because when I look at my channel and I look at some of the younger people, I'm like, man, they're getting 10,000 and 20,000 views, from, cussing out, somebody, or, you know, dancing and shaking, everything that they have. And I'm just like, okay, wow. Okay. But they're all on board and all supporting each other and behind each other. And the same thing when they go into workforce, like, hey, these older people, they don't know how to do things, they don't know how to run things. And the way that they have done things for a long time has messed the world up. So we're going to change things, and we're no longer going to follow behind the elderly. And I'm just like, I'm not that old, don't get me wrong. And I know one person told me the other day, like, oh, you got to respect your elders. And I'm seeing like there's been a shift. Okay. And I'm going to leave y'all with that. There has been a shift. Okay. And I'm starting to think like, I'm starting to think like I'm going to have to cater towards the younger generation versus, the generation around my age, because there's not a lot of support, and I'm talking about everything, y'all, everything, especially on this social media. Okay. I stayed on there last night. I got on, it's going to be a little off topic, but I got on TikTok yesterday. I said, I'm going to join some of the live feeds with older generation, younger generation, all females. I'm going to just try to mix it up. People who sing, people who play an instrument. I'm just going to see where to support or what's going on just in the world in general. Okay. Y'all, it's just like what I just said. Exactly. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to leave y'all with that. I got to get ready to go because I already got to pick up my daughter, and I have to run a couple of errands today. I'm going to go live on TikTok, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm out. All right. Thank y'all for joining me today. I really appreciate all the support and the love that y'all have been showing me, because I've been getting like quite a few like spikes, and it's not necessarily on YouTube. It's been on Facebook and TikTok, but I already had my spike on YouTube. So I had to stay loyal and still make my, content on YouTube, because like this was the first social media platform that I went through. And so I had to stay, consistent with this one. Even though I'm getting a lot more love through the other social media channels, I'm just like, I still need to be loyal. I still need to be consistent. That's how I am with, my banks, with my relationships, and, the spouse, with my children. Even if they're treating me any old kind of way, I still need to be loyal and I need to be consistent, because, burning bridges or making things hard for other people is not good for me. And the same thing when it goes to my channel, saying, hey, I'm going to quit my channel, which I did that one time. I thought about it and I said, that's not good to go out like that. Like, let me represent myself a little bit better on social media, so that when somebody does meet me in person, they know what to expect and they're not like surprised on how I act on social media versus how I act in person. All right. Well, I gotta go, y'all. Be good. Pew, 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 pew.